All right. Hey, welcome everybody. Wow. The Bengals defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers 24 to 10. And that is two straight victories for the Bengals. John.
How about that?
I mean, I don't know where to start. Let me start with this. Let me start with the defense. I can't remember a more suffocating defense in Cincinnati. I mean, even
I
the
was about
Marvin
to say
Lewis
the '85
days.
Bears comes to mind,
Yeah,
but
and
you're
the
talking about just in
Ravens.
Cincinnati.
What's that?
You're talking
Yeah,
about just
not
in
in Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
Yeah. But I mean, the 2015 Marvin Lewis defense. I think maybe that was their best defensive year. And
Wait, what year was that? 20,
15.
20. Yeah, they were pretty decent then.
Yeah,
I feel like
that was the year
I feel like
they yeah.
because like Zimmer, that was like after Zimmer left, and like 2009 comes to mind where they just ran the ball a bunch and swept the division. Like 2012, 2013, they were also really dominant. That was like the best Geno Atkins' years. But I think Geno Atkins is a great aspect to pull up here. He's not on the team anymore, but that presence that he provided during those years, that is there with Larry Ogunjobi, DJ Reader, and BJ Hill now. Like they're providing interior pressure, and that is a huge difference in defending the Steelers' passing game with Ben Roethlisberger back there, because not only were they pressuring Roethlisberger, they were finishing those pressures and getting him on the ground, which has not been a constant theme with this team whenever they play them. And that it makes such a difference, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. I mean, man, like we gave the front office, all of us, such a hard time for, letting Carl Lawson go and getting Trey Hendrickson. A lot of people said, "Oh, sacks, they're just infatuated with the sack total." Right? I mean, Trey Hendrickson can play. This guy
He
is a
can.
big time playmaker. And Logan Wilson, remember we were like the linebackers. Oh, we got all these I mean, I wasn't, but I mean, some people are like, oh, we got these linebackers. None of them are working out. I had hope for all of them, and I still do. I like the idea. I like the direction with those linebackers. But I mean, Logan Wilson already looks like a bona fide star. The guy, I
He
mean,
looks he looks like the exact opposite of any Bengals linebacker since what, like Brian Simmons maybe. We're going back all the way back then, but
yeah,
at
in
least in the
terms of
Marvin
coverage.
Lewis era, yeah, like it looks nothing like what we're accustomed to seeing.
And then, I mean, the offense, look, they got off to a rough start. I mean, Joe Burrow was like 14 of 18, I think. Very efficient game. He had that one pass tipped. Other than that, I mean, he was pretty much on the mark. A lot of people came out and said, "Oh, his passes don't have a lot of zip," or from the Bears game. But I think people forget that he's still working through a lot. But what I liked about this game was, so he goes through the struggles, right, early on,
Hmm.
bounces back, goes to his favorite target, and that's Jamar Chase. If there's any doubts, I mean, look, this was a Tyler Boyd type of game. Tyler Boyd kept us in the game. He's a Pittsburgh guy. He's a tough guy, and I think, John, do you remember that? Where he got hit out of bounds. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
And they didn't call it. And here's my thing: I love how he showed no reaction, and he kind of like pounded his chest. He's like, "Hit me, please, hit me. I like it. It's nothing." I
he's a
I like
masochist.
that attitude better than doing that hand gesture like, "Oh, throw the flag, throw the flag." He didn't do that kind of whiny stuff. He's like, "I'm gonna get you back." The very next play, he's like, "Come hit me!" Boom! They hit him. They bounce right off. He like bulldozes his way into. I mean, that is a football player, and I think that is where we kind of that's where we got their energy from. Is Tyler Boyd? He's the heart.
I
Yeah.
this is the most hype that you've ever been, I think, talking
I've
about the
never been this
Bengals. Like
excited.
I can feel you popping out of your suit a little bit. But that I think this game meant a lot to
Well,
Tyler
I ate
Boyd.
a
This was
lot
his
too
fourth.
during the game. I was nervous, so I ate a lot too. That is why I'm popping out of the suit. But yeah, go ahead.
Lot of macros in that in-game diet there. But I think this game meant a lot to him. It was his fourth game in Heinz Field. He played college football in the same stadium with Pitt, and he was really dominant there. And he's never really quite dominated with the Bengals since he was drafted there, playing in the stadium. And I think that first hit was like, yeah, like he was about it. He wanted the smoke, as the kids are saying nowadays. And that tackle, it's borderline clean or whatever, but he was ready to go. It was just adrenaline pumping, and like you just said, they went right back to him. He bounced off a would-be tackler. He had a great matchup against Devin Bush in coverage. That is the benefit of going empty every now and then. You give your guys prime matchups when the defense has to spread out and man up against 5 receivers, and that's exactly what the Bengals had with Tyler Boyd on that little option route over the middle, and then breaking the tackle and diving in the end zone. Like, I think that meant a lot to Tyler Boyd, who grew up in Pittsburgh and played at Pitt, and it was great to see him finally get a win in that stadium. Yeah, I think he's got a lot of carbohydrates going into his head right now. It's just a lot for him to really handle. But man, like, this is 2 games in a row now that the Bengals are pulling off upsets against this team. But is it really an upset? Like,
Yeah.
the Bengals look like the better team right now. They looked better last year when the Steelers were kind of imploding on themselves, and it looked like the Steelers were imploding throughout this game. And the only reason why they had any success towards the end on offense is because the Bengals were just down 2 cornerbacks, and they were finally getting separation against that Bengals secondary. But man, it does feel like the tides are turning a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does. It does. I mean, we are the more talented team. And like you said, I don't know who said it, but it looks like, Zach Taylor, this was his best game coaching. And his previous best game was also against the Steelers, that Monday night game. And, it's not just Logan Wilson. I mean, this BJ Hill guy comes out of nowhere. And, I mean, he's a machine. He's dominating people. And I like the fact that they're all, swarming to the ball. They are, it's like, it's not one, it really is a defensive team. And then they have the big play, the back-breaking plays with Jamar Chase. And I have a special guest to join us in our little celebration. Sam Schneider, who is with LA Bengals fan. They have their own show. It is the Jungle, what is it? Jungle Talk, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And and I was just on the show. Great guy. So Sam, welcome to the show.
What's up, guys? How are you? It's a good
Hey.
day to be a Bengals fan.
Oh man. I was retweeting Steel Legends. John knows who he is. He's one of the biggest Bengals.
Great guy.
haters. He's always wishing, injury upon the Bengals, especially Joe Burrow. And this guy was like, Mike Tomlin is so bitter. This is the worst loss in like decades. Our offense is the worst it's been in decades. And I was just retweeting all of this sweet, these golden, tokens of kind of appreciation of the Bengals. So what do you take away from this, Sam?
There's so much to unpack, and I'm sure you guys have already covered some of it. But there were good things going in every phase of the game. The defense, like you guys were just saying, was swarming to the ball, which was really great without being overly aggressive, which is something that this rivalry has had a little too much of in the past. So it was nice to see our guys, keeping a level head, swarming to the ball, not making any, mental errors in that respect. No extra hits, no over the top with most things. And, the offense played great. And on a day when T. Higgins was not in the game, you had Burrow go out and target 8 different receivers. Tyler Boyd and Jamar Chase had 4 apiece. Captain America finally got in on the act, had 2 catches, then 1 each for, the role players, when the Mike Thomas and, Samaje and a couple other, and Auden Tate. So it was definitely a team effort. And, it's the little things that really get Bengals fans going. And, of course, I'm sure, like, you guys, my phone is blowing up during the game with, several different text threads and everything. And the amount of joy that was being taken out from, the boos raining down in Pittsburgh in that stadium was really something, because, it's so rare that happens in a game that we play against them. Heck, this is the, first time we've beat them back to back since 2012, 2013 season. Before that, I think it was 1999. So, it was nice to see that we didn't just kind of back into a win, but, ever since Burrow hit Jamar with that big touchdown right before halftime, you felt like the tide was majorly turning, and maybe it is in the series as well.
Yeah, I mean, that is the thing. Is like I was telling John, I think Tyler Boyd kept us in the game, and then I like how we bounced back. It looked like it was gonna be an ugly game, not a lot of points, and then it's like, oh, boom, we got this Jamar Chase guy, And Jamar Chase, I forgot, John, was that crazy when he caught with the fingertips? Was that the first one? Was that the end of the first half? I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the end of the second half. And I think Burrow just said in this post-game presser that Jamar came up to him and said, just throw it up and I'll go get it.
And I mean, it's funny, John. Well, I don't know if it's funny. Remember the problem was his hands? People were saying. Do you remember that? Have you seen better hands than on that catch? I haven't. I mean, a lot of people like those one-handed
These
grabs.
are the same hands. These are the same hands that made him the best receiver at LSU.
I know.
Nothing's changed.
But John, I mean, he's a rookie. He's adjusting. And like, he has maybe like, if he was like in Madden, he has like 98, 99 hands. I mean, the soft touch, I mean, the ability to kind of tip that to himself, that is elite. Am I right, John? I mean, that is top notch. That ability right there.
Yeah, and that's the Jamar Chase factor. That is like, there's competing with the AFC North, and there's competing with any team in the league, right? Yeah. The whole conventional wisdom against Jamar Chase is that you need to be physical, you need to run the ball, you need to block against AFC North teams. When Marvin Lewis was coaching this team, they're not thinking about scoring a touchdown in those final minute and a half against the Steelers. No. But when you have Jamar Chase out there and you can put up points against any defense when you give your quarterback enough time, that is that game-changing impact player that not even AJ Green really did that well for them against the Steelers at sometimes. Like, that is that level of game-changing ability that you can have with a guy like Jamar Chase.
I mean, here's the thing. I love AJ Green. AJ Green was more about the kind of the freak plays. You know what I mean? The jumping over people, like coming back for the underthrown ball.
No disrespect, obviously, but
I know.
It's a different athlete.
It's a different athlete, and it's a different kind of contribution. Jamar Chase with Joe Burrow, the chemistry they have, it's something you can rely on more. With AJ Green, it was like out of the blue, you had these crazy plays. You know what I mean? And it wasn't sustainable. But I feel like with Jamar Chase, we're seeing every game we have a big Jamar Chase play. Every single game, and it's just in time. It's just when we need it, But okay, so look, a lot of people are mentioning Jackson Carman. And John, 75 games, the Steelers, straight games, they had sacks. 75. And they didn't have one against what? Oh, this offensive line, that was a big problem, the worst offensive line in the league. Jackson, we have our offensive line now. I mean, that was a solid game.
You saw enough?
What's that?
You saw enough from Carman?
I did. I mean, he's fantastic. But look, no TJ Watt. But I mean, that's in Pittsburgh, okay? We had 3 calls go against us early, and it seemed like the refs. I mean, I don't know, but it just seemed to me, as an objective observer, that they wanted the momentum to be on Pittsburgh's side on the road. We had 2 times where there were late hits. We had the phantom. Remember it was like way over the guy's head, and they called pass interference. It was like. And that hostile environment, and the offensive line just came through. They held up the whole game. I mean, look, Joe Burrow wasn't fantastic in terms of mobility this game, So I mean,
yeah, he's clearly still favoring that knee a little bit. And Trent Green even said on the broadcast, he made a comment about, well, the knee looks fine, and I was like, really? Because he looked awfully herky jerky trying to evade a sack there. But I watched quite a bit of Jackson Carman, especially in the first half, just because I was real curious. And what I saw was a player that's still, he's still obviously young, he's still obviously raw. But for his size, especially considering he, apparently reported overweight, he's got really quick feet. And a number of times, he laid a block on his man up front and then still was able to pivot and help on the edge on someone else coming around. And, that's a lot of that is instincts. That's not necessarily something that he's been coached to do on that particular play. So, I don't know that I've, seen enough to say that, yeah, he's for sure the guy, and he's, going to be a Pro Bowl caliber dude. But I was overall impressed with him today.
Yeah. And just real quick, Carman did have a penalty. He had a false start in that first drive, and I think he probably was responsible for giving up that would-be sack if not Burrow had evaded it. There was just a delayed blitz from Pittsburgh, but that should be expected against that defense with how they run it. So, to his credit, he calmed down. And he played a fantastic game after that.
What I mean, John, what I mean is, I feel like the unit played well as a whole. And it's about the 5 guys that are together. And once you decide on those 5 guys, that is when the line can start to make, headway. You have to have your five guys, And so I'm not nothing against Xavier. So if but I mean, if Jackson Carmen is good enough, keep him in there. That's my take. Keep him in there
I
because
mean,
it's working.
he was drafted to start, and I think he should continue to start so long as he's healthy. And I think now Xavier is in his ideal spot where he can just be a swing guard, and that's probably what he is at this point. He's just a guy who can maybe give you 20 snaps off the bench, but anything more than that, and you just can't really rely on him. But I mean, the Carmen is the long term option, so good for him for taking advantage of it.
Yeah, we know exactly what to expect from Xavier when he's out there. You know what I mean? He's going to be adequate to slightly above average, and that's his ceiling. And he's already at his ceiling right now. So anything that the young guy can do, he's still got a long way to go in terms of his potential. So he absolutely needs to be out there. Like you said, John, so long as he's healthy, he should be out there in the starting lineup every game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I am like, I don't even know what to do today. Like, I mean, I think I have to go out and play some football or something to get this adrenaline out of my system, or I don't know, John, what do you do when you feel like this? Have you ever felt like this before? This is the biggest victory. I mean, that Monday night game was just so strange, but this was
surreal.
But I mean, it wasn't something that we're going to do again. But this feels like, we own Pittsburgh now.
Like that game was. It's hard to describe, but it involved just pregame motivation against Juju Smith-Schuster, and involved just gimmicks from Ryan Finley. This was, the Steelers weren't exactly, 100% healthy, and I think that had a big part of, how they were deficient in the pass rush. But it was still like it was their best guys against our best guys, and they just outplayed them, and just in a very normal setting that they haven't done well in like 6 years. So it's a turning point for sure.
I mean, and Ben Roethlisberger has been so great against us historically. It seems like those days are over. I mean,
the guy he's just cooked at this point.
I wasn't prepared for how bad he looked today.
No, I mean, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't contribute anything, and he has some really good weapons. So, man, I mean, imagine it's like, and they use the second round pick on Mason Rudolph. I mean, I think we'll be okay for a few years.
Yeah, he's got next apparently, but I think that means something, because like again, when Chidobe Awuzie went out, they had Darius Phillips out there, and so he had both Eli Apple and Darius Phillips being somewhat liabilities in coverage, and that's when the Steelers started to generate some movement, looking like their old selves, right? Just this quick passing game, create separation with the receivers, and they were down all our receivers too. But like that was their chance to come back in the game, and they ended up taking a field goal off of an 18 play drive, and then they turned over on downs with maybe the worst fourth down play call I've ever seen with my own two eyes. But that's the difference. Like in the past, the Bengals defense may give up a touchdown there. They completely break after bending. This time around, the pass rush still kept them alive, and that's been a theme for these last 3 weeks now.
And John,
as far as this series goes, it was almost like a role reversal today. They were playing like the Bengals have played against them, and we were playing like the Steelers have played against us.
Absolutely, yeah. I tweeted something. I was like, "What is the equivalent of Bengals for Pittsburgh? Is it the Stooges or something? Because that's what they look like. They look like the Stooges." Look, John, let me ask you something. How are the running backs in pass protection? Because I know that we brought in some more help for Joe. It wasn't as many empty sets.
Yeah, I don't. There wasn't any bad examples that I can point to off the top of my head. No whiffs or anything like that. So I would have to look at it again, but I can't think of anything that comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Evans had one nice reception. I saw that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so maybe we see more Chris Evans and Joe Mixon. I mean, he seems to be running smarter, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, he seems to be like, really, really finding the right holes. In his running style, and he's getting 5 yards a carry, so it's great to see him delivering. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, the misdirection cutback is kind of Joe's specialty. When we get everybody pushing to one side, and he stops on a dime and kind of turns upfield, and obviously people will start to catch on to that. But for right now, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, that's the beauty of wide zone, right? You have you get the whole defense flowing one way, and as long as you have the balance and the patience to read your gaps from outside to in and make that cutback, it's going to work more times than not. I think he did a a better job in this game compared to the first 2 weeks of timing those cuts and keeping his balance. Like that's been kind of an issue with Mixon throughout his career. He's a very forward-leaning runner, so sometimes he kind of gets out over into his feet, and sometimes he doesn't gain as many yards as he should based off how much space he has. So I think this time he worked so much better in conjunction with his offensive line and making those cuts. And wouldn't you know, he had like his most explosive runs of the year so far.
Yeah, he was much more patient today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but speaking of explosive, do you hear how great John Sheeran sounds today? I don't know if you know this, but he has a new microphone.
You know, I did notice that, as a matter of fact. Yeah,
he sounds beautiful.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, he's the Frank Sinatra of Bengals podcasts. This guy.
I mean, it's like the velvet fog of YouTube.
Very velvety. Yeah, yeah.
I am
honestly
Italian, but
couldn't
I'm not
focus
in the
on-
mafia, so
I could not focus on the show. I was just so, I just wanted to hear John talk more. Now, the reason is John got the new mic because of the supporters of our show. So we have our patreon.com/DH Sports. And you guys have supported us for so long. Now, we just want, if you can, we get some more patrons, we can get a mic for Hodgie very soon. For Dr. Hodgie, Dr. Kismoji, we can get him sounding like that. And I actually was able to get my mic. I still haven't been able to hook it up. I will soon. But we have some other equipment that we need. So please support us. And we're running out of time, but I want to give away a ticket for Thursday night's game. I have a ticket, and I want to give it away if we get 9 patrons of $9, the Joe Burrow tier. I would give it away to one of you of the Joe Burrow tiers. Other patrons, of course, there are other perks. So anybody, you can even be a $1 patron. So just go to patreon.com/DHSports so we can improve the equipment of the show. Don't forget to subscribe to the #1 Bengals podcast, leave a 5-star review, and Sam's show, Jungle Talk, right?
Correct.
And the LA Bengal fan YouTube channel. Is that right?
Yeah, LA Bengals fan.
LA
YouTube,
Bengals
yeah.
fan. And Jungle Talk is on iTunes and all that stuff, Scratcher and Sniffify and
Yeah, you name it, you can find it somewhere.
Yeah,
and on Twitter at @jungle_talk.
Yeah. And also you have a website that you write for.
I do. I write for Primetime Sports Talk. You
Right.
can find us at primetimesportstalk.com or on Twitter @talkprimetime.
There you go. And John, of course, is on Cincy Jungle. He just published his thoughts on this big victory. So we will give you the Jaguars preview in the coming days. And until then, we will see you next time. For John Sheeran and Sam Schneider, I'm Dadio McDoug. We'll see you next time. So long, sweetie. Bye.